guy has made some decisions. Actually, a guy was watching another guy work on his, I think it was a 64 Chevrolet, fixing the lightning whirler and the fire go bang box and all the whatnots. Pretty cool. Makes me want to get this thing done. So this guy made a few decisions and got tired of it and just made a bunch of changes off camera. I'm going to bring you in here and show you that in just a second. Yeah, let's show you what we did and then we'll talk about it. So come on in here. Okay, so what I'll show you in a minute is we worked on that fuel pump last time. This time it was the carburetor and fuel and getting it running. And I'll show you that, but I'm just gonna give you the end. It would run and then stop and run and then stop. I think there's just so much junk in the 20-plus-year-old lines and the fuel cell and everything that every time I get cleaned up, it'd fire right up. And then the needles and seats and everything would get gummed up or stopped up, and then it would stop running. Pull the top of the Eldebrock off, or how does he say it? Eldebrock off, and clean it up, and then it'd fire right back up and then get clogged up again. So what this guy did was I ripped it all out. I've got a Holly sitting on here right now just covering the hole. We'll use that Eldebrock for the time being once we get everything back on. Ripped out all the fuel lines, ripped out the little flow divider, the fuel regulator that was here from back when I had, I think it was the high performance fuel pump, like the red or whatever color it is. And now I've been running just a lesser one. So it didn't even need it, but it was there from leftover time. All those braided lines that we had from 20 plus years ago, ripped those out. The fuel pump is out. The fuel cell is sitting in the back of the truck, leaving all this room to actually redo this bed. Pull the wood out. I'm gonna redo it. I think I'm just gonna use these same metal pieces, but get rid of all these holes in the bed. So and not put the fuel cell back, since I don't have plans to redo it like I talked about, where we had that really cool Frenched in tank that my dad and I did. I believe what we're going to do, get in here with me, is just put it right back where they put it from the beginning. Get rid of the speaker box and put a stock tank back in here. Have the filler net coming out the side. Run some hard lines down to probably an electric pump to a manual pump, so maybe have a backup, some redundancy there, and then bring those hard lines up and over. And like I said, for now we'll stick with this Eldebrock because it's new and seems to be working. Maybe we'll switch it to something later on, but this engine isn't anything special, so the goal is to get this thing on the road. So I got tired of it back and forth running and not, and I thought, you know what, this all has to come out. Didn't record any of that, just ripped it out. So now let's go back and I'll show you work on the carburetor so you can see some of that stuff taken apart, and maybe it'll help out somebody that is working on one of these. So hope you enjoy. Sit back, relax, and have fun in the shop. All right, we have about 6 cans of carb cleaner. Let's go get that Eldebrock off and get this thing running right. It doesn't take much to get the carburetor off. 4 nuts off the top. Disconnect the throttle linkage, the fuel, the electric choke, and on this one, that's about it. I think there's a vacuum line or 2. Get those disconnected, and the carburetor comes right off. Quick and easy. Carburetor is not hard to get off, and that's what we're left with. Old manifold and engine that's been sitting a while. All right, let's go get this thing cleaned up. Well, this old Eldebrock, it still has gas in the float bowls. We'll turn it over, dump that out, and dispose of it appropriately, and start disassembling it, cleaning everything up with some carb cleaner and compressed air. This thing really only has a couple miles on it. It's what, 7 years old now or so, rarely got used. Basically, it drove from one house to the other. What do you think of that little golf ball screwdriver there? Comes in handy sometimes. But anyway, we'll start disassembling this, like I said. And the biggie is paying attention to what we're doing as we take it apart. Because, I said before, this guy's not ever done this before with a Eldebrock, at least. So as we're disassembling it, just paying attention to what was where so that we can put it back in that same location. Alright, so I'm going to take this outside where I have more airflow and clean up, excuse me, clean all the little ports, all the holes, all the areas, clean it out really well with some carb spray and blow it out with compressed air, and we'll get it put back together. Well, now she's all cleaned up and ready to start reassembling. So you'll notice, you might be able to see them there, that the jets or needles, I don't know exactly what part. I didn't want to pull them off. You see them sticking up down there right next to the float. They don't really want to seat, and I'm reluctant to take them apart. So I'm just trying to get this thing to fit together without applying a whole lot of pressure. You know, when it's made to go together, so as everything finds itself in the appropriate location, it'll settle on in like it's supposed to. So you're not really shoving it together. It'll fall together when it's ready. But basically I reached a point here where I discovered that those jets, needles, whatever they are, aren't seating in where they're supposed to be. So I'm going to have to pull them. And that's what we're going to do here in just a second. We'll get those pulled and the thing will go together well. See, picking at them right there, deciding, okay, I got to take them off. What's funny is when I disassembled it, after I reinstalled in the truck, I actually take this thing apart and cleaned it 3 or 4 different times as I was getting it running. I had no trouble reseating it with the jets on in the truck, but for some reason here on the bench, couldn't get it done. So pulled them out here and paid attention which one came out of which hole. So that one came out of the left side, and I put it on the top side of my bench, and this other one comes out of the right, and I'll put it on the bottom side, so they go back in the same place. Try to do that with stuff, especially when I, obviously using the same piece over and not exactly sure what I'm doing. So now it's the top is seated back to the base. We'll put the screws back in and just re-engaging all the screws, and I'll tighten them up just like you would a tire. I'll do a star pattern, go from one side to the other and work my way around. I mean, if it's good enough for your tire, it's good enough for the carburetor, right? That should work. We'll get all those snugged up and then put those jets, needles, you tell me in the comments, what are they called? But all in all, this is a really simple carburetor. There's not much to it. I've taken apart the Holly years ago, and honestly, I don't remember, but and I've rebuilt an old Rochester. Haven't had a whole lot of success with any of that, to be honest with you, but I have taken them apart and seen what they look like on the inside, and this one is pretty basic. So have it bolted back together. Now we have to put the linkages back on. There's little cotter pins that hold them in place. We just get all those settled for the throttle, the kick down, the choke. Get those items linked back together so we can take it out to the truck and get it reinstalled. Again, you take the time on the front end as you're taking it apart to pay attention to where and how everything goes. Write it down if you need to, take a picture. I got this video. If you need to go back to the video, that's great. But you're making sure that everything goes back the way it came off. Reinstalling this on the engine, really easy. There's 4 studs on the top of the manifold. bolt it back down, hook up the throttle linkage, hook up the choke. I'm not gonna worry about the kick down or the fuel, the airbox at this point. Just get it bolted back up, get the fuel line on, and let's see if this thing will run. It's great. In these old trucks, I've been doing this for years. You can climb right in and sit down, get comfortable, and work on the engine. There's tons of room in there, especially when the only accessory you have is an alternator. I had an AC on here at one point, but it only made it a few years before that was removed. So yeah, plenty of room, sit down, get comfortable, take your time. All right, we've got the carb cleaned, and new fuel lines kind of ran. Again, I'm just using what I have, other than buying a little bit of fuel line and some new hose clamps. But have it cleaned up, have everything reinstalled. Fuel pump worked yesterday. We're hooked up to battery. Let's see what we're working with. Attempt number 2, or attempt number 1, day number 2. Let's see what we have. We have fuel pump. What? You hear that? We are spraying fuel. Let's see though. Hold on. All right. So round 2, day 2. You heard it. It started right up, which is good. But we were spewing fuel all over everything out of this cheap little, what amounts to is like a lawn tractor filter. It's all I could find on short notice when I went to move this truck years ago, just to protect the new carb that I had bought at the time. So couldn't handle it, had to pull it out of line. So we still have one filter back there, and you know, again, temporary, but I've got a glass filter going to the pressure regulator, which I don't need anymore because I used to have a blue electric pump. Now there's a red pump, but just left it in line because of the fittings and everything. So we'll get the air cleaner on and go for attempt number 2. Let's see what messes up this time. It'll be something, right? All the tools are out of the way. We are hooked back up to power. Fuel's back up. Let's give it another attempt. There we go for nothing. We got pump. And we got idle. Yeah. Let's see if we're leaking. See if we have anything leaking out here on that round. A little kinked on the gas line here. But everything appears to be dry from this round, I think. Another attempt, and this time it worked. So I just right here, I pulled the top off the carb and the needles out, cleaned the seats up a little bit, but the float seats, I cleaned those a little better this time. Actually pulled the little float needles out, cleaned all that, and I think we're on to something. So let's try this again. Fuel pump. That sounds like I... Well, it did, didn't it? Yeah, so that's where this guy's at on his 65 Chevrolet. Just wanted to show you because I didn't film any of that, but I got tired of dealing with it running and then stopping, and so I figured to just rip it all out and start over, make it clean, and that way I can redo all the wood in the bed too, and not have to worry about a fuel tank or anything in there. And those little tanks that they put in the back, like the little kits for relocating the tank, I don't like those. They're tiny. They're in the back of the bed, and they're in between the frame rails. I don't like that, so we're not going to do that. So that's where we are. We need that, and the big purchase is going to be a steering column. I want to get a shorter one. So researching all this stuff and trying to find the right time to be able to do it. It's not going to be a fast project, but I want to keep moving with it. So yeah, that's where we are now, and you know. Like this guy said earlier, I don't know what I'm doing all the time. I've worked on it. I can do it. We can figure it out. We can figure it out together. If you know or have any suggestions, hey, let me know them down in the comments. I love that because I'm constantly learning. I mean, I did a lot of this stuff 20 or more years ago, and might not have done it right then. So who knows? So appreciate you watching this far. Again, any suggestions, complaints, or criticisms, let me know in the bottom, and have fun in your shops. And just in case y'all are watching, I am working on this for you. Made some progress, waiting on some parts. Hopefully have it up and running here not too long. So it is happening.